Peters Valley. I'm so excited to introduce you to Ennis Carter, who is a friend and a colleague. We've worked together on several projects, one of which is the craftschools.us program, so you have to check that out. But Ennis, in addition to being an amazing awareness campaign designer, is a graphic designer who took a real interest in the WPA era posters, and we decided to apply for an NEA grant to bring this exhibition and her book and her stories about the WPA era posters to the national park, since we exist in the national park in the Delaware Water Gap. So last fall we had an exhibition at the headquarters, and now it comes to Peters Valley. And on May 7th, during our open house, we are going to have a hands-on poster printing activity here. So it's going to be a really special day, and it'll be free. So I suggest you bring people, and I'm going to hand you over to Ennis.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kristen, and everybody at Peters Valley. Peters Valley is a very special place in my heart. It's kind of our home away from home, because I live in Philadelphia with my family, and just being able to connect with people that really have a love of not just art, but the making of art and the time it takes to make it, and some of the time-tested things that just are universal. And I think we get to see them in these posters. So welcome to Posters for the People at Peters Valley. I'm just going to talk for a few minutes and then open it up for questions. We're also going to unveil a poster that I designed for the Delaware Water Gap, because we are in the National Recreation Area for the Delaware Water Gap, which did not become a national park until 1965, actually 2 days before I was born. And so as part of that NEA grant, we were so lucky to be able to do a commission to create a WPA style, one of those park posters for this park. So we're going to unveil it, and you'll be the first people to see it.
Wow.
So Posters for the People is a project that was created by my organization, Social Impact Studios out of Philadelphia. We are a creative hub for promoting important social issues. We're mostly graphic designers and creative folks that have come together to tell the story of nonprofits and social programs. And so many years ago, my husband came across a book about WPA posters and gave it to me, and I had an aha moment and fell in love with them. First of all, because they're so beautiful, as you can see, but also because they were made by artists who were hired by the government, out-of-work artists that were hired by the government during right after the Depression, to promote social programs, specifically to help raise awareness, bring people together, promote behaviors and qualities and programs, and a vision that Franklin Roosevelt had when he came into office to bring people together after the Depression. So one of the things that we found out when I started kind of looking at these posters and collecting these posters is wanting to learn more about them. We found out that there was no record kept of all of the posters that were made during the WPA, because they were considered ephemera. They weren't considered art, even though they were under the art project, the federal art project. They were often just thrown away after they were used. And there was no federal record other than what was documented at the state-by-state level in terms of how many were created, or which artists were hired and which ones they designed. But that, to me, was a very sad story to hear, and I got interns and a staff involved to go and find these posters in different places. They exist in public and private repositories, but to document them through a field project that's been going on for about 15 years now. So Posters for the People documents and presents the posters from the WPA era, and WPA stands for Works Progress Administration. It was a work program to help put almost a third of the nation was out of work after the Depression. So it was designed to put people back to work, bridge builders, social service agents, teachers, physicians, and artists. And artists were considered just as equal a part of the workforce as people who were building bridges, and that spoke to me as well. So we do know that there were 35,000 posters made between 1936 and 1943. But the number has been documented. But the only collection that had been large enough that was documented was in the Library of Congress, with 900 posters. So through field research over the last 10, 15 years at Social Impact Studios, we've identified a total of over 2,000 posters out there in the field. Still not 35,000, but
35,000 different ones?
yes, different designs, and 2 million were printed.
Okay.
So by 500 artists around the country, they designed 35,000 posters. So you can kind of do the math. They were cranking these things out over and over again. And not just cranking out posters that had text on them that told you to go, where to go to get your syphilis shot, which there are plenty of those kinds of posters. But these beautiful posters that celebrate democracy and celebrate American tourism and celebrate art and careers in art, all sorts of wonderful things that really make up the fabric of what I believe, and I think many people believe, is like the true great America. The other things I can tell you are that there are many artists that develop some new processes through this. So most of what you see on the wall is actually done through silkscreen. And silkscreen was actually not an artistic medium before the WPA and poster artists. What happened was the original troupe of artists were sitting on at easels, painting parts of posters and handing them down the line to each other, all hand painted. And in New York City, the art director there, his name is Anthony Valonis, he's actually depicted in the middle photograph in the photos up there, came in and applied his knowledge as a wallpaper printer, and they use silkscreen technology to make repetitive patterns for wallpaper. And he said, wait a minute, we can make repetitive posters using silkscreen technology. And he developed that, was the first person to coin the phrase serigraph for that process. And they were able to make millions of posters because of this process. He actually developed a curriculum for teaching kids how to do silkscreen process. And it could be argued that many of our poster makers like Andy Warhol and Shepard Fairey wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Anthony Valonis. I make that argument because I'm just so happy to know that history and that story, and that was funded by our government, and that was honored as a way to tell the story of what was happening. So, is there anything else? We have a couple of, just looking around the room, just to tell you what's going on. We have some photographs of WPA poster workers. There were 18 cities that had poster divisions in them. Some were very small. They were in the same, community art center. They might have one person who was cranking out posters. And some were very large, like Chicago and New York City, where there was a printing tradition. There were large shops of people that were doing this work. The photographs show silk screening process, but also hand lettering that was done at that time. A lot of this lettering that you see on these posters, these were not fonts that were brought up on a computer. They were hand lettered, time-honored tradition of typography. Over on the back wall is a photograph from the Harlem division of the Federal Art Project's theater department. So in Harlem, there was a whole theater department that was cranking out dance performances and theater performances, and Orson Welles very famously did an all African-American cast version of Macbeth up in Harlem. So this is what would have happened in a print shop, where the guy on the right is the designer of that poster. He is African-American. We've got a black and white photograph. We've got some different skin tones, so it's not always easy to tell the backgrounds of people. But he's the designer of that poster, and then the guy printing it is the printer. And that was what was happening in these shops. And if you notice, actually, over here, this is a black and white photograph, but you can see what's going on here. We have a white collar and we have a blue collar. And that is basically the distinction between people who might be in an office job still, in front of a drafting table, doing the design work, and then the person that actually does the production work. What I love about all the photographs from the WPA is the blue collar and the white collar workers are all wearing ties no matter what. And there's a kind of a dress code for being at work, even though you're covered in ink, you're still wearing a tie. And many people also, one of the hallmarks of the WPA, actually one thing that the WPA did when they hired people was they also gave men a hat. Because when you had a hat, that meant that you were a professional, you were on ball, you had your act together, and so many people that were really suffering after the Depression got jobs at the WPA doing all sorts of things, and also walked home with a fedora. So the other posters around here I can answer questions about, but for the most part, they're silkscreen posters. They're all originals with the exception of the Work with Care poster over there. Was created off of, that was a woodblock print originally, so that was recreated silkscreen technology to simulate that woodblock print. And sadly, there's not too many left of those. There's one in the Library of Congress. And the other thing to kind of let you know is that there was a wide diversity of people working in these shops, and some of them were integrated. In Philadelphia, the shop was fully integrated, and it was actually run by Catherine Milhouse, a woman, that was the director of that department. We had 2 of her pieces in this show, the Pennsylvania Dutch pieces. She was a very well-known children's book illustrator prior to the Depression, and so when the Depression hit and she got hired to work at a WPA poster office, she quickly upped in ranks and became the director of that department. So it's a really exciting story to hear about these artists doing this work. We don't know too much about them, but there are a few relatives that are left, so we do have some stories about them. The 3 artists that are depicted in the cases are artists that we have learned about because of connection to their family members. So in these 2 cases were some recently discovered posters made by a New Jersey artist in a Newark poster division. We didn't even know there was a Newark office. That wasn't documented in anything that we knew. His daughter, Vincent Murphy, is the artist, and his daughter supplied us with those photographs of the few posters that he designed and some images of him in the shop, so you can see that. Then on the other side is a New York artist and a Pennsylvania artist, where we've learned their stories through their family. So, do we want to answer some questions, or do we want to unveil that poster? Roll. Yeah, let's unveil that poster. So, I am so thankful. I'm so thankful first to Kristen and the whole staff. Brianne went above and beyond last night helping us install the show. So thank you, Brianne. It looks wonderful. And I'm so thankful for somebody who thinks about going and asking the NEA to help fund a project like this. And so designing a poster for the Water Gap, is not just another poster. It's a national park poster that we've just made to add to that collection. So it's very exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to open this up and show you the poster for the Delaware Water Gap. So it's designed with these posters in mind, of course, and we're really excited because we're in the process of creating a bunch of hand silkscreen versions of this. We have our print artist here, Hope. She's my partner in crime when it comes to getting things produced. We're working on, we have a handful of testers tonight that are for sale, and we're working on creating a 5-color print that you can purchase online. And also at the open house on the 7th, we're going to be doing a hand silkscreen workshop, and one of the posters that people will be able to create is a 2-color version of this poster for free that you can make yourself and bring home with you. So, wow, great. Alrighty. So, does anybody have any questions about anything?
Yeah.
About the WPA or these posters
How
here?
did you choose this image? There's so many things you could have chosen.
Well, the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area actually has a logo, and that logo is a very simplified version of something that sort of looks like
I've
this.
seen a patch that looks sort of like.
Exactly. So I figured if they've already done that work to kind of identify themselves, that's another thing that we do as Social Impact Studios is we help with really identity and making sure that your identity stays strong and stays consistent. And so we didn't want to just for the hell of it do some other kind of design. We wanted to reinforce and represent what was already in existence, but just give it a little bit more, life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions about
So
those
this,
posters?
what year was this done? 2016, 2017, or?
It was done like 2 weeks ago. It's been in here. It's been in here for about a year since we got the project. Yeah, but then we got it.
Aren't deadlines wonderful?
They are. Deadlines are wonderful. So this is actually, it was hand drawn and then digitized, and then I had to go through a whole process of digitizing. So it's a 2017 poster.
So somebody online is saying, where can they buy these online?
Sure. So postersforthepeople.com is the website for the art project. It actually is the archive. So 2,000 posters are documented there. Many of them are for sale. And so if you search the archive for Delaware, if you use the word Delaware, it'll come up and you can buy them online. And so you can pre-order the 5-color prints. Those are $75. We have some tonight that are the tester prints that are a different color scheme. They're actually very similar to the Philadelphia poster that we have a replica of up here. It was not unusual for these posters to be in very bright, vivid, vibrant colors. Some of the park posters tend to have a little bit of a dustier look to them, but not all WPA posters were like that. Many were printed, most of them you're thinking were printed in oil inks that lasted the test of time and were often very bright. Sometimes we found out that a lot of posters were printed over and over in the same color palettes, and that's because that's all they had available. It still was post-Depression era. They had very little supply to work with, which makes the creative work that these artists did even more amazing. I mean, we have wonderful examples here. This is actually a lithograph, and because Catherine Milhouse was so well known, she could do that. She was the director of the department. But over here, these game commission posters, we have no idea who did those, and there are about 75 game commission posters, and they are amazing. Everything from bird hawks to fishing to preventing forest fires, and we have no idea who did them. But you can see a wide array of colors there too. Like that Help Wildlife one, that pink is something from the 80s, but that's an original poster that was printed in that color at that time. Any other questions that I can answer? We do also, we'll turn it back on, we have a little film festival on the screen that shows some propaganda film that was made during the WPA, but also overview of all the programs. So, for example, the Philadelphia Airport was built by the WPA. And many of the public works programs built many of the roads around here and the Keystone Bridges and other things like that. All right, any other questions? No? All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the looking at them and get in and look at them because they're really pretty fascinating how they're made. All right.